Okay, so get this. Today's deep dive, we're tackling AI. But hold on, before you click away thinking, oh no, not another robots taking over the world spiel,
Right, right.
this one's different. See, a listener sent in this research paper, and let me tell you, it blew my mind. Totally changed how I see AI's role, not in like sci-fi futures, but in how we discover things right
Okay,
now.
definitely. It's a fascinating area of research.
It's called, get this, The Impact of Artificial Intelligence on Innovation. Catchy, huh?
Straightforward. I like it.
But here's the thing. This isn't some random blog post. This is from the National Bureau of Economic Research. These folks are the real deal.
Absolutely. They're the gold standard when it comes to economic analysis.
And the authors. MIT, Harvard, Boston University. We're talking heavy hitters in the research world.
Yeah, very distinguished group. So what's the paper all about?
So usually we think AI, we picture robots, right? Like they'll do our jobs faster, more efficiently, which fair enough. But this paper, it argues that AI's impact on innovation is way more profound than that.
It's not just about doing the same things better or faster. It's about doing completely new things.
Exactly. It's like, think about before we had microscopes, we could only see so much with the naked eye, right? Then boom, microscope comes along and suddenly there's this whole universe of tiny stuff we never even knew existed.
It revolutionized biology. It changed the questions we could even ask.
And that's what's so cool about this paper. It argues that AI, especially this thing called deep learning, it's like that microscope. It's fundamentally changing how we discover stuff, how we innovate, the whole game. But before we get all hyped up on deep learning,
Which we'll definitely get to.
yeah, we got to break down what we even mean by AI, because it's not just one thing, right? Like there's robotics. Everyone gets that one. But a lot of robotics is about automating tasks we already do. Helpful, but not exactly rewriting the rules of innovation.
True. A lot of it focuses on optimizing existing processes, making them more efficient.
Right. Then there's this thing called symbolic systems.
Ah, yes. The quest to make computers think more like humans, logically.
Exactly. Cool concept, but, and the paper kind of hints at this, it hasn't quite lived up to the initial hype. At least not yet, anyway.
It's definitely an area of ongoing research, but it hasn't had the same transformative impact as other types of AI.
Right. Which brings us to the star of the show, deep learning. And this is where things get really interesting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. This is where the real paradigm shift is happening.
It's like deep learning is inventing a whole new process of discovery.
It's more than just interesting. It's a fundamental change in how we solve problems, how we approach innovation.
Right. It's not just about doing things faster or more efficiently. It's about a whole new way of thinking, like you were saying, rewriting the playbook. But why is deep learning so different? What makes it tick?
One key thing is deep learning. It's what we call a general purpose technology. Think about something like, oh, I don't know, the internet wasn't designed for any one thing specifically, but it's transformed pretty much every industry under the sun, hasn't it?
It has. So deep learning, it's got that same kind of potential.
Exactly. A general tool for innovation across the board. But it goes even deeper than that. It's an invention of a method of invention.
Whoa, whoa, slow down. We're talking meta here. We're talking about inventing ways to invent things.
Precisely. It's not just coming up with a better light bulb. It's discovering electricity itself.
Okay, so deep learning, it's like, it's a meta invention. Instead of just inventing something new, it's inventing new ways to invent things.
Exactly.
And the paper, it actually backs this up, right? With like actual numbers.
Oh, absolutely. They looked at research publications
Mhm.
and the ones related to deep learning.
Hmm.
Since like 2009, it's been an explosion.
Wow.
And not just in computer science journals, we're talking medicine, economics, even radiology.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
It's like deep learning is becoming the tool for discovery no matter what field you're in. But there's always a but, right? But this whole deep learning thing, it has a bit of a hunger, a data hunger.
That's one way to put it. Massive amounts of data are essential for deep learning to work its magic.
Right, and that data, it's not just lying around for anyone to grab, is it?
Some of it is public, sure, but the really valuable data, the stuff that can give a company, a research team, a real edge, that's often kept under lock and key.
So we're talking like companies hoarding data, like it's the new gold rush.
Essentially, yes. And that's where things get a bit tricky when we talk about innovation. Imagine a scenario where a few powerful companies control all the best data in, say, healthcare or energy.
It'd be like having a monopoly, wouldn't it?
Exactly. It could stifle competition, lead to monopolies, and ultimately slow down the pace of innovation.
Because if nobody else can even access the data, how can they even begin to compete or come up with new ideas?
It's a valid concern. And it's not just about companies battling it out either. Think about researchers at universities, smaller institutions. Without access to data, they hit a wall. And that hurts scientific progress for everyone.
So data hoarding, bad for innovation. Got it. But we can't just, like, force companies to give away all their data, can we? There's got to be some kind of balance there.
You're absolutely right. It's a complex issue. How do we balance the rights of data owners with the need for access to keep innovation thriving? That's the million-dollar question. The paper brings up some interesting ideas, though, like encouraging more public databases.
Like a digital library, but for data.
Exactly. We've seen it work in other fields.
Yeah.
Or stronger privacy regulations, giving individuals more control over their own data.
Okay, so more data sharing, stronger privacy, those are good starting points. But what about the companies themselves? Can they do anything? Or are they kind of stuck?
They're not stuck at all. This is where a bit of a perspective shift comes in. What if, instead of hoarding data, companies saw the value in sharing it?
Hold on. Sharing data, how does that benefit a company's bottom line?
Think about it. They could share data securely, anonymously, protect their trade secrets while still allowing others to learn from it. They could even charge for access.
Data as a service. You pay a fee to access this huge pool of anonymized data. Interesting.
It could be a win-win. Companies monetize their data, researchers get the insights they need, and society benefits from the accelerated progress. It's all about finding a sustainable model.
I like it. But will companies actually do it? Will they really be willing to part with their data, even if it is anonymized?
That's the big question, isn't it? But there's a growing realization that hoarding data, it's not a winning strategy in the long run. Not for companies, and not for society as a whole.
Right. So we've talked about who owns the data, who gets to see it, but there's another layer to this whole deep learning thing, isn't there? Like, how is it actually changing the way research is done?
That is a fantastic question. It gets to the heart of what makes deep learning so revolutionary. Because it's not just a tool, it's almost a new way of thinking about problems.
Okay, you've got my attention. Tell me more.
So, traditional scientific research, it often focuses on finding a few key factors that explain a phenomena. Think Newton's laws of motion, right? Elegant, simple explanations for how things work.
Right, but deep learning, it throws elegance and simplicity out the window.
Not quite. It's more that deep learning allows us to tackle problems that are inherently messy, complicated, problems with tons of variables that interact in ways that are difficult to predict, problems that traditional methods struggle to even approach.
So like the stock market, trying to predict what makes it go up or down.
Perfect example. Or predicting the weather accurately, or understanding how diseases develop. Deep learning, it doesn't try to boil everything down to one neat equation. It embraces the complexity, learns from the data itself, and makes predictions based on patterns that, frankly, our human brains might never fully grasp.
So it's like intuition, but on a massive data-driven scale.
That's a great way to put it. Deep learning sees patterns, connections that we miss. It finds signals in the noise. And that is incredibly powerful. But it also raises some important questions.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, we don't even understand how these deep learning systems are making predictions. How do we know if they're right? How do we know if we can trust them?
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here, from those different flavors of AI to this whole data dilemma thing. And of course, deep learning, this idea that it's not just a tool, but a whole new way of thinking.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is. So let's bring it all home. For the average person listening to this, what's the takeaway? What's the big so what here?
I'd say the key takeaway is that we are at the very beginning of a massive shift. AI, and deep learning especially, it's not just a technological revolution, it's changing society itself. Okay, so bigger than just, like, faster phones and self-driving cars.
Way bigger. This is about how we understand the world, how we make decisions, how we solve problems. It's about the nature of knowledge itself.
Wow, okay, that's huge. And like any big change, I'm guessing it comes with, opportunities, but also some risks.
Absolutely. I mean, on the one hand, you've got the potential for deep learning to help us tackle some of the biggest challenges we face.
Yeah.
Climate change, disease, poverty.
Right, those big ones.
Imagine a world with new energy sources, cures for diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's, personalized education for every child. These aren't just pipe dreams anymore. Deep learning is making them feel within reach.
That's an amazing thought. But what about the flip side? What are the potential downsides, the things we need to watch out for?
Well, we've talked about the data dilemma. If we're not careful, deep learning could end up worsening existing inequalities,
Yeah.
concentrating too much power in the hands of a few.
Right, right.
We need to make sure data is used ethically, responsibly, and that the benefits of AI are shared broadly, not just hoarded by a select few.
So all that stuff we talked
Mhm.
about, regulations, data sharing, that all becomes even more important.
Exactly. But it's not just about government regulations. It's on all of us.
Okay, what do you mean?
As citizens, we need to be informed about these issues. We need to demand that our leaders are making responsible choices about how AI is developed and used.
Right.
And as consumers, we need to understand how our data is being used
Right.
and make choices that align with our values.
So it's like we're all responsible for the future we create with AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the future of AI isn't predetermined. It's being shaped right now by the choices that we make.
Wow. That's a powerful thought. And I think that's a perfect place for us to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of AI and innovation.